I used to believe in the one. In my person, the only one. Not just love, but salvation. A soul that feels you before you even speak. A touch that calms your pain, even if you never told anyone about it. Eyes that feel like home. That idea lived in me for years. Maybe since childhood. Maybe since the moment my mom said that real love is when you look at someone and don't want to change a single thing about them. I nodded back then, like kids do when they want to seem grown up. But I didn't understand. And honestly, I probably still don't fully understand. Because everything that came after was searching, relentless, sometimes obsessive. I tried to recognize her in strangers on the subway, in a girl at a cafe who smiled like she knew my dreams, in the one I met through an app and was already imagining us growing old together on the first date. Every time, hope. Every time, a fall. I won't say they were all the same. Each had her own magic, her own truth. But the more I clung to the image of the one, the more I was disappointed by real people. They were human, with flaws, fears, shadows. And I wanted perfection. And then one day, she showed up. The one I was sure about. This is her. Not because she was better than the rest, but because everything aligned. Time, place, readiness. She didn't swear she loved me on the first date. She didn't reply instantly to every message. She didn't dream in pink clouds. And that's exactly what got to me. Her realness. Her calm. Her silence. We didn't talk much, but it was deep. We hugged like time could stop. I started thinking, that's her. She's the one. I let go. For the first time, I allowed myself to believe. I dove into the feeling head first, like into water, but I didn't know how to swim. Because she left. Not because of betrayal. Not because of fights. Just, she said she wasn't ready. That she needed to be alone. That she felt good with me, but something inside just didn't click. Something was holding her back from taking that next step. And she didn't want to lie. Not to me, not to herself. I remember that conversation in every detail. How she stared at the floor. How I clenched my fists not to cry. How we sat in silence after, long, without words, as if waiting for something, and then just walked away in different directions. That night, I didn't know yet that this encounter would change everything. I sat for a long time in the same cafe where we first met. At the same table, I ordered her favorite tea, jasmine and mint, even though I couldn't stand mint. I just wanted to feel her presence, even just the scent. A flavor that once felt like tenderness now tasted like emptiness. Grief would come in waves. Sometimes, suddenly, without warning. In line at the store, on a bus, when I heard a familiar voice or a song she loved. I could hold it together all day, be composed, even joke with friends, and then fall apart in the middle of the night, alone in my room, pressing my face into a pillow so no one would hear me cry. I couldn't understand why it hurt so much. She didn't cheat, didn't disrespect me, didn't scream or belittle me. She simply said, honestly, she didn't feel that I was her person. And that was the cruelest thing, because there was no one to blame. No villain to point at, just silence. And me, left alone with a hope that had grown so tightly into my soul. It now tore everything else out by the roots. I kept replaying our conversations, our evenings, our first walk, how she shyly took my hand, how she laughed when I tried to speak Italian and said something ridiculous, how we sat in silence, and that silence felt cozier than any words. I asked myself, why didn't she feel the same? Did I make it all up? That closeness? That connection? Maybe I just wanted to love so badly that I forced myself to believe she was the one. But the heart doesn't lie. I truly loved her. Without conditions. Without expectations. Just as she was. And that was something new for me. I didn't want to change her. Didn't need to prove I was better than someone else. I just wanted to be there. And now, what remained by my side was emptiness. And the worst part is the feeling of not being chosen. Not because you're not good enough, but because something was just missing. I didn't know what that something was. And honestly, I started to hate that word. I tried to distract myself. Listen to my friend's advice. Keep busy. Time heals. You'll meet the right one. Sometimes I even agreed. I smiled. I pretended it was getting easier. And then I'd come home, and everything was dark again. I started writing her messages I never sent, just to stay sane, to pour out everything I never said. I wrote about how much I missed her laugh, how I just wanted to know she was okay, and at the same time, how I wanted her to regret it, to realize what she had lost. But deep down I knew she wasn't to blame. We all have the right not to love, And that's the hardest truth to accept. And one more truth, I didn't know how to be alone. All those years, I wasn't really searching for the one. I was running from myself. I was looking for meaning, validation, comfort, recognition in someone else. I believed that if someone finally chose me, I'd finally be enough. But now I was left face to face with the one I'd been running from all along. Myself. And maybe that's where the Rayal story begins. A month had passed, maybe more. I stopped counting the days when I realized I was no longer waiting for her message. Not because it got easier, but because I was tired of living in expectation. Tired of being the version of myself who constantly looked back. Life didn't suddenly become brighter. There was no grand revelation. I didn't wake up one morning with a smile and think, I'm free. It was something different. Slower. Like waking up from a long, heavy sleep, when your body still aches, but your mind begins to quiet down. For the first time in a while, I left the house without headphones. Not to block out my thoughts, but to finally hear them. I walked the city streets where everything used to remind me of her, and now, it was like those memories were fading, changing. The bench where we sat that first evening. The shop where she laughed at my weird taste. The street we walked down silently, holding hands. Now they were just a bench, a shop, a street. My friends told me I seemed different, calmer. Some thought I hadn't moved on. Others, that I finally had. I didn't really know. It felt like something inside me had quietly closed. Not out of pain, but out of respect. Like a door to a room where memory lives. I don't go there every day, but I haven't bricked it up either. And in that room, it's not her that remains. It's me. The me who believed that someone would come and make everything inside make sense. Who thought I was only worthy of love if someone else gave it. Who pieced himself together just to be enough for someone, never noticing he was disappearing from himself. That pain taught me honesty. Not with her, with myself. For the first time, I admitted it. I wasn't looking for a person. I was looking for a savior. Someone to give me meaning. To fill the emptiness I was too afraid to face alone. I wanted to be loved, but never learned how to love myself. And now that she's gone, I'm left with the most important question. Who am I when I'm alone? I didn't look for answers in new people or one-night distractions or advice from online therapists. I started living more slowly, observing, listening to music I used to skip, writing, even just jotting down thoughts. Not for anyone else, for myself. I learned to have breakfast alone, without imagining how it would look if she were here. I learned to be quiet, not because there was no one to talk to, but because silence no longer scared me. I started seeing people, not as potential ones, but simply people. Real, imperfect, alive. One day, I was sitting in the park and saw a girl reading a book, smiling now and then at the pages. There was something warm about her. A few seconds passed, and I realized I didn't want her. I didn't want to try and mold someone new into my ideal again. I just felt glad she existed. And that was a new feeling. A pure one. I haven't stopped believing in love. I've just stopped chasing the one. Because maybe love isn't fireworks, or fate, or puzzle pieces clicking together. Maybe it's peace. Acceptance. A shared silence where neither of you feels cramped. Maybe love isn't about finding someone, but finding yourself next to someone and not losing who you are. And if I'm meant to meet someone again, I don't want her to be the one. I want her to be a person. Real. Honest. Someone who also isn't looking for the one. Because she knows that the most valuable thing isn't finding someone. It's staying together, without forgetting who you are. It was an ordinary Saturday. I went out into the city with no plan. I wasn't looking for excitement, and I wasn't running from pain. I just wanted to walk, to listen to the noise of the streets, to watch people drinking coffee, arguing, laughing, living. I'd learned to be an outside observer, and there was something therapeutic in that. When you're not at the center of everything, it's easier to breathe. I wandered into a small bookstore, by chance. I don't even remember what drew me in. I hadn't read in a long time. Words had felt hollow ever since reality tore my heart out. But this time I stopped near the poetry section, picked up a book, a random one, opened it to a page, and read a single line. You don't arrive when someone waits. You arrive when they learn not to. And right then, she appeared. Not her, the one who left me hurting. Someone else. Not the one. Just a girl with a cup of coffee in her hand and a garland of sunlight in her hair. She stood nearby, flipping through another book, and I didn't even notice her at first. What caught me wasn't her face, but her laughter. Soft, as if she was laughing only with the pages in her hands. We exchanged a few words about the author, then a few more. I wasn't trying to impress her. I wasn't performing. I just spoke as I was. And strangely, it felt easy. Not because there was a spark or something dramatic, but because I expected nothing. We sat on a bench near the park, had coffee, talked about books, life, loss. She didn't dig into my soul, didn't ask, "Why do you seem sad?" She was just there, as a person, and that was enough. For the first time in a long while, I looked at someone and didn't project anything. I didn't think, maybe it's her. I didn't compare. I didn't analyze whether she fit into my old ideals. I simply saw her, not my need. And maybe that was the magic. We said goodbye without promises. No numbers exchanged. No text me sometime. Just a simple farewell. She walked one way, I walked the other. But I kept walking slowly, like something in me was still quietly sitting beside her. And here's what I realized. I no longer need the one. Not because I lost hope, but because I've stopped clinging. I've stopped placing my entire happiness in someone else's eyes. I've stopped handing people the key to my peace. I'm learning to just be, not in a relationship, not in pursuit, not in waiting, just being. And maybe that's exactly when the real thing arrives. When you're no longer searching. When you're not broken anymore, but not fully healed either. When you don't throw yourself into someone's arms, but simply share silence. When love isn't a rush, but a space. For two people. For growth. For honesty. And if no one ever comes, then so be it. Because I've already arrived, back to myself. Life didn't change drastically. I still woke up in the same apartment, drank the same coffee, took the same route. The people around me were still the same. But I wasn't. I used to be afraid of silence. It felt like a sign of defeat. Like, if you're not chasing something, not falling in love, not in constant motion, then what kind of person are you? As if calm was something for those who gave up. But now I knew. Calm is power. My own quiet victory. What once felt like a vacuum, now became space. Space for thoughts, for emotions, for my true self. Without outside noise. Without internal screaming. Just silence. Clean. Clear. Strong. Sometimes I think of her. Of the one I no longer search for. Not with pain. Not with regret. But with gratitude. Because it was through that loss that I finally met myself. The real me. Not the one constantly trying to be needed by someone. But the one who can be alone and not lose himself in loneliness. I didn't become cynical. I haven't stopped believing in love. I've just stopped believing in the fairy tale of the one and only for life. Because now I know. No one comes to save you. People aren't meant to fill your emptiness. They're just people, with their own worlds, their own wounds, their own freedom. And love, it's not about finding someone perfect. It's about staying close to someone imperfect without losing yourself. I started doing the things that once inspired me again. Not to impress anyone, not to fill time, but just because I wanted to. Drawing, listening to old songs, taking short trips, even just for a day, to a new town. Sometimes, just sitting in a tram, watching out the window. Life became simpler, but fuller. Not because of others, but because of presence. One evening, I was walking home and saw a couple on a bench. They weren't talking, just holding hands. No drama, no passion. And in that ordinary scene, there was beauty. Once I would have thought, that's the dream. That's what I'm missing. But this time I thought, I already have that inside me. It doesn't hurt anymore. It doesn't weigh on me. It doesn't keep me up at night. I no longer search for the one, because I've realized the real one isn't the person who comes into your life. It's the one you don't lose yourself with when they leave. And if one day I fall in love again, I want it to be intentional, not a way to heal an old wound. I want to meet someone, not to fill a void, but to build something new together. Not because I need a missing piece, but because I'm already whole. My story isn't about the love that arrived. It's about the love I found for myself. Because in the end, we're not broken pieces waiting for someone to put us back together. We are whole. We just sometimes forget that being alone is not loneliness. It's freedom.